So last time we talked about the benefits of meditation. All those, especially beginners, they always want, what can I benefit from meditation? We already have covered that. Future benefits, transcendental benefits, present temporal benefits, reduce stress and to free oneself from symptoms and emotions such as fear, worry, jealousy, hatred, anger, increase your confidence and happiness, and reduce your desires for sensual pleasures, and increase wisdom and tranquility of mind. We already have touched on those. And those are the present temporal benefits. But what is more important are the future transcendental benefits. To reduce mental afflictions, increase samadhi and prajna. Of course, we already have gone through what is samadhi and what is prajna, leading the practitioner towards the path of enlightenment, and finally ending the reincarnation of life and death and reaching nirvana, Buddhahood. And that's the most important, because present benefits only deal with your present life. The transcendental benefits, it's to discontinue life and death reincarnation. We already have talked about that. So what I said last time is, that's what I said, that's what I gathered, all the information. Are there any support for the results of meditation? So we have American Psychology Association, we have Cardiology Research and Practice, American Heart Foundation, National Resource Center for ADHD. All these have clinical scientific researches conducted to prove that meditation brought tremendous benefits to those who practice it. It's one thing to hear about how good it is. Another thing is, do you have the confidence, the persistency, the patience to practice it? Not many. We really have to promote it to let people know. So today we're going to lecture 2. Now, we already have talked about the benefits. Talking about meditation, it's easy to tell you how to sit, how to cross your leg, how to think about it, and the posture, the environments. But it's extremely important that you should know about why we have to meditate. If we use certain methods, why do we use certain methods? What's the urgency in meditation? So that leads to some transcendental spiritual concept of how our mind works. Because meditation is the mind, it's closely related to the mind. You have to understand yourself. You have to know, who am I? Who are you? Where do I come from? How do I get born? Why do I get born into this world? What happened to me in the future? Do I have just one life? Where do I come from? Did I come from the last life? What's the time and space concept of meditation? In doing meditation, why do we have to concentrate on the breath? And why do we have to let go of our wandering thoughts and all that? In order to explain those in detail, it's not enough just to tell you what to do. You really have to have the patience to sit down and think about who you are. That's a very basic concept in meditation, which many people ignored, especially those learners who learn it. They ignore the questions of, who am I first? Let's start with I. What is this I? What is this? Some people call it an entity, I. Who is this I? Let's analyze it. You have to go step by step. Mind you, some people may not be interested. Why do I have to know who am I? I just got born and I just live. Why do I have to worry about it? Who am I? Where do I come from? How do I think? Whatever pleases me, that's what I think. They don't really go beyond the I. Let's explore more into it. If we have that question, who am I? A basic preliminary answer would be, I is made up of what? body and mind, right? I have a body and I have a mind. So we say we have a body and we have a mind. There's no question about it. How can you without a body? Even if you have a body, if you don't have a mind, you are just a lump of flesh. You have no mentality. So you are a combination of body and mind, right? No question on that. There's no denying on that. But then the Buddha further explain and break it down into what exactly is the body, what exactly is the mind. So we say, okay, the body consists of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 materialistic perspective of the body. And some people will ask a question, why did the Buddha break down the ears, the nose, the eyes, the tongue, and segregate it from the body when they explained universe, when you explain body? Why did he break it down? Why did he just say a body? And why he has to break it down as eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body? There's more to know about why. Because of the body cannot interact without the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. And when you talk about the body, it's not just the skin, the skeleton. You have to know about what are the organs that you're using to interact with the outside world. So in Abhidharma, the Buddha always explained it in depth, in detail analysis. So according to Mahasatipatthana Sutra, the body has basically 32 parts to the body. Let's take a look at your bodies first. The hair, the bodily hair. Hair is just the head hair, the hair of the head, right? And the bodily hair, the nails, the teeth, the skin, flesh, veins, the bone structure, the liquid in the bone, kidneys, heart, liver, bladder, spleen, lungs, small intestine, or intestine, large intestine, stomach, feces, brain, gallbladder, the gall, phlegm, blood, sweat, etc., blubber, tears, synovia, spit, mucus, marrow, and urine. When a Buddhist monk is practicing Asubha Bhavana, he's always contemplating on what the body is made up of. What is Asubha Bhavana? Asubha Bhavana is to contemplate on the impurities of the body. Because the reason why we are born into this world is because we have desires. If you don't have sensual desires, you won't get born into this world. You are born into the Rupa Dhatu or Arupa Dhatu, which is a higher level existence. We are born into the Kama Dhatu existence, which the reason is because we have desires. And it is sexual desires that pull us into karma. But sentient beings in here just thought the opposite. They thought sexual desire is best, is what they want. But actually that is the problem. We always think that that's the joy that we have. But the Buddha said, the reason why we reincarnate is because we have that desire. So the Buddha explained in detail how to practice Asubha Bhavana, which is impurities of the body, to eliminate the sexual desire. And we have a lot more to say about Asubha Bhavana, the contemplation of impurities of the body. The body is a bag of impurities, but that's not what we think. We think the body is beautiful. The body it's what you want. You want to keep it, you want to appreciate it. Of course you have to appreciate your health, your body, but you don't attach the sensual desire to externalities. Anyway, body consists of that. And then you also have the eyes, the ears, the eyes, the nose, the tongue, and that is your sensory organs. All these things is not 100% you. In addition to all these are just molecules, elements, particles. This is made up of body cells. You are made up of not just the body cells, the material part of it. You're also made up of what? The mentality part of it, which the mind consists of. The mind has perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. You are the whole conglomeration of all these. And the Buddha laid out everything in detail and analyzed each one of these. And even present modern psychology, they don't go as deep as what the Buddha Sutras contain. It goes into every minute detail of what perception is, what conceptualization is, what volition is, and what consciousness is, so that you know in detail what is life. Who are you? Who am I? Have we got it clear now? You really have to gear your thinking to analyzing yourself. When you're analyzing this I, yourself, you're at the same time understanding others. In order to practice meditation, it's not just sit there and waiting for tranquility to come. You have to understand yourself first before practicing it. And what these two things involve is the body is materiality, a materialistic perspective of life that emphasizes on empirical evidence provided by the five senses, what can be literally be seen, heard, tasted, touched, or smell. In other words, your body, all these are molecules, elements, atoms. They can be empirically evidenced, empirically tested. They can be touched, heard, smell, all these things, because they are material. However, life is not just contained of material. Life contains spirituality too, which a lot of people ignore, I haven't thought about. And this spiritual perspective goes beyond mere outer appearances. It goes beyond molecular or atomic and the five senses. It goes beyond empirical evidences. You cannot see thinking. You cannot see conceptualization. It's in the mind. So we are made up of not just the materialistic part of it, but also the spiritual part of it. So if you try to understand who am I, you really have to analyze every one of these in detail before you even meditate. Now, if you understand the basic and get into meditation, meditation would work more efficient for you. If your guru, your teacher just say, okay, this is how you sit, cross your leg, put your right on the left on the right, and this is how you put your shoulders, and then that's just the appearance. You got to get into the spirituality of meditation. Someone may ask, fine, this is philosophy, psychology, so I still don't know who am I. I know I'm a body, I have my brain, molecules and elements and perception and conceptions. Then where do I go from here? I know all these things. Where do I go from here? Let's carry it a step further if you understand what I've been talking about in here. I don't have to go into the details of hair, bodily hairs and nails and teeth and all that. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, but suffice it to say that you have to get some knowledge of the body, ears, eyes, nose, and tongue, especially the sensory organs, because we use our sensory organs to interact with the outside world. So the Buddha segregated the sensory organ out from the body so that he told you how you interact with the outside world. Well, there is a philosopher, a modern philosopher, and his name is René Descartes. And he had one very famous saying. He said, "I think, therefore I am." If you have no thinking, you're not what you are. You think before. You may think it wrongly, mistakenly, or you may think it correctly, but you think, therefore you are. So I think, therefore I am. How do I think? How do you think? Now, as I said before, we have the body and the mind. And we can say the body is materiality, and the mind is perception, conception, volition, and consciousness, which is the spirituality of it. There's 5 items in here. The Buddha sometimes, in some sutras, he explained the body and mind by using the 5 skandhas. Because the 5 skandhas emphasizes on the thinking part. The 6 sensory organs and the body concentrate on the body part. So sometimes the Buddha went for detail into the 5 skandhas instead of the sensory organs, because he wanted to bring out the spiritual part of it. So if we think about the material part of it, on how do we think, when you meditate, you're still thinking, you know. When you're not meditating, you are thinking. There's not one moment that you're not thinking. Even when you are sleeping, you're thinking. That's what we call a dream. When you are sleeping, your 6th sense is still working. It's resting and thinking. That's the reason why when you're thinking, you always have dreams. When you're sleeping, you have dreams. Your mind is non-stop. So you've got to study your mind before you get into meditation. How do you use your eyes, your ears, the nose, the tongue, and your body? The Buddha in his sutras says the eyes interact with visual objects. Thereby, eyes consciousness is created. And in common English, we call it a vision. We have a vision. We see something. So when your senses interact with objects, a consciousness is created, arises. Ears interact with sound, and ears consciousness is created. We call it audition. Nose interact with smell, and nose consciousness or smell consciousness is created. We call it olfaction. Tongue interact with taste, thereby taste consciousness is created. We call it the taste. The body interact with touch, internally and externally. Externally, when our body touches, of course, the touch consciousness, tactile consciousness. Internally, every organ is touching each other. It's just a minute inside touch. So the body touch is not just concerned with external touch, it's also the inside. All the organs working, the circulation of it, the internal organ, the veins, the blood, internally working, touching each other. And that is what we call tactility. A tactile consciousness is created. Now, all these is the 5 senses all interact with the environments. And all this consciousness is being created. When you have these consciousnesses, that makes you think, because a consciousness is thinking. And I'm going to ask you a question. Do you appreciate these senses? How do you use these eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body? How do you use in your daily life? How do you use these valuable senses that you have? How do ordinary people, temporal people, use their senses? In many ways. Do you appreciate the existence of your senses and use them accordingly? Some people do. They use their eyes to read, to see PowerPoints, to see good things. At the same time, they also use the eyes to do what? To see what? Pornography, attractive things, creating sensual pleasure, desires in their mind. They use the senses in many ways, the pros and cons ways. And some people may not even appreciate their own senses. There's always an article that I would like to draw your attention to, and I always mention it when I come to this point, is Helen Keller lost some of his senses, an American psychologist, a philosopher who lived about 100 years ago. She lost her eyes. She didn't have eyes, vision, consciousness. She lost the ears. She lost the tongue. She only had the nose and the body. She lost the consciousnesses, the senses of 3 of these consciousnesses. There's an article that she wrote, give me 3 days to see light. If she would be given 3 days to see light, to see visual objects, these are the three days. This would be how I spend my 3 days. The first day, I would like to see the face of all my friends, my mom, my tutor. And then I also would like to touch their face and see them. I like to see flowers. I like to see the blue sky. I like to see the children playing. I like to see birds, how they fly, how the carpfish swimming in the pond. I like to see these beautiful things. She liked to use the eyes to see. And then she said, how I don't understand, some people with normal vision, they don't appreciate their seeing. When a friend came back from a trail walk from the woods, I always ask them, what do you see in the forest? And they always say, no, nothing in particular. I don't understand why. They come back from nature and they didn't see anything in particular. How I appreciate my eyes if I can see, my nose if I can smell, but I can talk, I can express my feeling. I can listen to the chirrupings of the birds, the songs of the birds, of the hummingbirds. I appreciate my senses. Okay, mind, perception, interact with everything. The mind interact with all dharmas, everything. The mind, of course, contains perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. And perception is when the senses start to perceive. Conceptualization is the one to conceptualize what they have seen. Volition is how to carry out volitional actions and speech. And finally, the consciousness explains how all this mentality works. So the mind actually interacts with everything, because all these visual objects, sight, smell, taste, and touch also interact with the mind. So the mind, we said, we have a mano consciousness, which is in contact with these senses. It also has an ego consciousness that in the mind, which we call manas consciousness, the ego consciousness. Some people may not understand the ego consciousness. When you were born with karma. In other words, you brought your karma from your previous life. The time horizon, the time dimensions, what the Buddha was talking about was just not of today or this year. You have previous lives that you brought your karma to the present life. And because of your previous karma, which you have accumulated, you brought your previous karma to this life. And that previous karma is an accumulation of experiences of what you have experienced, which contain your ego. So in other words, when you came to this world, you have already molded in your consciousness a certain ego that you already have brought forward. So that's the reason why some babies are more obstinate, Some people are more having fun. Some people, different babies, when they were born, they already have an egoistic molded ego in them. Some people have, some babies have bad temperament. Some babies smile all the time. Some babies cry all the time. Some babies resist certain things. You were born with an ego that you brought forward from your previous life. You already have your basic personality with you when you were born in here. We call it the karma. And some people call it the ego. And this karma, this mano, this ego karma, brought not only your personality, it also brought what you were about to experience in your life. Because of the causality, the universal causation, the law of causation, whatever bad things you have done previously, the bad karma, you also brought the bad karma to this life. The good karma, you brought the good karma to this life. It's not God who gave you this. You created all this yourself. You were selfish before, or you were generous before, you always have a temperament before, or you are also easygoing before. It's all you are the creator of your own ego. You brought forward all this karmic energy that you're about to experience. And Helen Keller, for example, she brought forward a karma that is deficient in eyes, ears, and tongue. Because of certain things she did in her past, which brought her this karma. Everybody has a karmic energy, a bag of karmic energy you brought forward to here. Don't blame your dad for abusing you. Of course, you shouldn't be. You could have abused him before. Don't hate your husband for divorcing you, or you divorcing your parent, or your husband. You did the same thing to her or to him before. Why did your mom love your sister more than you? Because of the karmic energy. Every karma is a little different. So this mana is really have to understand it. You really have to understand your own ego. Where does it come from? How it occurs? Not just about the present mind, about this ego that you have. And also, last but not least, a liar consciousness. We're talking about consciousness. With the eyes consciousness, ears consciousness, nose, taste, tactile consciousness, mano consciousness, which is very active. We always refer that as to your mental manager. The manager in your mind that is so skillful, so remembers everything, interacting with the eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and body to perform all actions or all speech. Here is this manas consciousness, which work in conjunction with the mano to carry out your life. And this alaya consciousness is the store and interactive house for all. Where you store this karma, it all stored in the alaya. Whatever you have done in the past, every thought, every action, you think it will be forgotten. It always gets stored in the alaya consciousness that you brought forward to this life. That is the storage. You can see these three things. You can see this mentality. Of course, the brain you can see. The brain is just the tool for the mind. The brain is not the mind. The brain is just a tool for the mentality. So you can see the brain, of course, biologically, chemically, scientifically, but you can't see mano, manas, and alaya because they're invisible. When a person dies, the mano shrink into ego, into the manas, and the manas shrink into the alaya. It is the alaya that gets into the next life, that reincarnates in the next life. When a person dies, there's no more ears, No more ears, no more eyes, no more ears, no more nose, no more tongue, no more body, no more brain. It all shrinks into the ego, the manas. And the manas would shrink into a liar. And it is the liar that gets into the next life, that reincarnation, that reincarnate into the next life. You really have to understand all this before you meditate. If you don't understand your mind, how can you meditate? You have to understand this in order to interact properly, normally with the outside world. You have to understand this in order to get enlightenment. The Buddha explained all this in detail, how you should see yourself. Who is this I? How should you see your body, your mind, before you get into meditation, before you get into enlightenment?